Talking about Quinfall is like talking about the special kid in the special class. It's pretty special.
Alright, so the last time I covered Quinfall, I was interested but skeptical about the game, and rightfully so. After all, the developer was making the grandiose claim of being the biggest MMO of all time, with a map 10 times the size of World of Warcraft, while coming from a studio who had yet to release a single game. That studio, Valrek Technology, was made up of just 56 people, which is on the very small end of team size for making an MMORPG. We also knew that Quinfall had only been in production for 3 years, starting its development in January 2021. And 3 years is about half the time big MMOs require, with most of them generally taking 5 to 7 years to make. And then lastly, from the gameplay.
But what about the technology pioneering an AI generation? Really now, we're gonna go there. You actually bought into that absolute BS. Man, that's really sad. Hey, I called it the first time we saw this bad boy. Looks bad. Looks unbelievable. Looks kind of like, your typical scam. We are entering the golden age where people are literally going to make scam games. They're just going to find something basic, take a bunch of assets, in the rough range of 500 euros, cobble them together, and try to paint over as shiny of a paint as possible and sell to people who hope and dream for a better life. It's gonna be a wild ride, boys.
Play footage we had seen of Quinfall. It looks pretty rough. There's no other way to say it. Specifically, things like the combat, movement, and animations did not appear to be all that good. But even knowing all of that, I was willing to give Quinfall a chance after all.
Did he not see the countless videos of everyone just talking about how everything they show in the trailer is literally a store-purchased asset, and they don't have a single touch of originality in this bad boy?
I'm not typically one to completely write off a game before I've had the chance to play it, and on the plus side was the
I am. The latter sounds way smarter than the former.
Fact that while the developer hadn't yet released a game, they did have one in-development title prior to Quinfall that went by the name of Kyra Online, a Turkish MMO that spent a couple of years in beta testing and appeared to be like a proof of concept for their newer game. So my general thought was, yes, Quinfall looked pretty rough. Yes, 3 years was a very short amount of time to develop an MMO, and yeah, they were making some ridiculous claims, but I wanted to wait until we saw and learned more before being too judgmental. Well, since that video, which came out about 2 weeks ago, we have learned a lot more about Quinfall, and it's not looking good. With every bit of new information, things are getting progressively worse. It actually appears like we are dealing with yet another thrown together minimum viable product of a game, much in the same vein of what we saw with the day before. So let's go through what we've learned about this.
Dude, the day before was a masterpiece. There were people unironically defending it and saying, oh, this is just a start. And they weren't even actually in on it. They weren't the developers. They weren't anything. They were just people who thought that that's not legitimately not a scam. And then what happened the day before? Well, they closed shop, got millions, got out, and everyone was, we won! We won! The developers just got away like bandits with at least 2 million, but we won! Man, gamers really need, I don't even know what they need at this point. Jesus, education, a life or whatever, but man, it's pretty sad. And that's the reason why scams like this are gonna just be more and more popular in the future. Because of how many people legitimately can't tell that this is not good. It's crazy.
Game. So for starters, remember that Quinfall gameplay trailer from a few months ago? Well, it turns out most, if not all of it, was made by other people and purchased from an asset store. So in March of last year, a YouTuber by the name of Nuion released a video going over everything that he was able to find in the Quinfall trailer, somewhere around 75% of it that was available for purchase in the Unity store. This included the animation where we see a character slam the ground and summon up a lava burst eruption. This came from the realistic Effects Pack 4, which cost $42. Most of the basic enemies seen in the Quinfall trailer apparently come from this 14-character orc pack, which cost $50. The Archer, who splits into 8 spectral copies, well, apparently that effect came from the Archer Effects Pack, which cost $22. The Archer itself was actually a purchased character model by the name of 3D Woman Paladin, which cost $40. The enemy the Archer is fighting came from a monster pack for $35. The frost effect on the Archer's attacks came from the Realistic Effects Pack 3 for $28. The attack animations of the character fighting a scorpion came from Realistic Effects Pack 4 for $42. The scorpion itself came from the Giant Scorpion Animation Pack for $25. The water level turns out to just be buildings purchased from the Elysium Pack, which was originally meant to sort.
Now, the fun part about this is actually supposed to be a flying city. But flying cities are boring in Atlantis. It's where it's at, baby. It is what it is. Who doesn't want to be Namur, the Submariner, or something like that? You know, the Marvel shitstorm. Yeah, who doesn't?
To be a city floating in the sky. Well, they took that city and just placed it on top of water. That cost them $200.
Smart.
And one of the funniest examples came from the ship sea ocean section. So those ships that we saw were not actually made to be saleable vehicles. They were instead supposed to be entire levels, playable levels. They bought that pack, and then that Kraken in the ocean, it originally actually looked more like a crustacean, almost like a lobster hybrid thing. So they just rotated it, sticking its tentacles out of the water for their trailer. The video revealing this information just goes on and on and on, with Nuion meticulously combing through the Quinfall trailer, laying out every single character model, NPC, attack and spell animations, basic enemies, bosses, clothing, weapons, and entire environmental locations that he was able to locate for purchase in the Unity store. In total, he counted somewhere roughly around $1,700 worth of assets, and that is just what he found. There is probably more. In fact, we know there is, because recently...
You know what's crazy? The day before did it for less. And they made millions. What a time to be alive. Man, these guys are actually... Dude, this is almost effort considering to the day before. That's crazy.
Recently, in a new video released last week, Nuion was back with more evidence spotting additional purchased assets. These include the medieval-themed city and buildings that were seen in various parts of the Quinfall trailers. This came from the Stronghold pack, purchased for $65. He then also went through the screenshots on Quinfall's website, where he was able to find several of them came from pre-built environmental asset packs. These included the underground cathedral, a cave system, and this desert city. He then also actually showed examples of how easy it is to recreate making these screenshots, just going through the process of picking an asset pack, booting it up in Unity, importing the level, and then moving the camera around before taking a screen grab and color correcting the image. That is how they made, apparently, or this is a great showcase of how they could have made those screenshots themselves. Now, as has been covered time and time again, I want to make this clear.
Yeah, obviously. It's amazing that people don't catch on to this. It's amazing that people don't notice this. My favorite thing about gamers is that gamers, because they played some kind of game that had, Roman looking things, and now they know what's a phalanx is, they get this idea that they're really smart and they know a lot of things. There you go. How many people bought the day before with thinking it's gonna be the next big thing? How many people did defend it? Like, dude, Quinfall is gonna be a success at this rate. It doesn't matter how many people talk negatively about it, how many exposes it gets. At this rate, it's probably gonna succeed. I mean, damn, boy. Hey, I said from the very first video, yeah, this looks kind of like a scam. It is what it is.
Using store-bought assets in your game, not a problem. After all, it is why they exist. People create these assets and put them on the marketplace in order to be used by studios to help ease the development process and to make it more affordable, as it's usually cheaper to buy an asset pack than it is to pay someone a wage to create something similar from scratch. So buying assets to use in your game, that alone, that's not a problem. However, it can become an issue if all of your game is store-bought assets and you're creating little unique content yourself. If all of your character models...
Yes. I already talked about this. No, that's actually also not a problem. There are actually games that are literally just full-blown stored assets, but they are made and cobbled together and they're good. There are games like that. It's actually not even that rare. The problem is, when you have someone trying to sell you the idea of this grand, amazing game, and then they're just literally taking individual assets and trying to portray them as gameplay designed for this game, and this is what the game is. Okay? If you just take a basic asset, as we saw at the start, and you try to sell it in a trailer as, oh, this is what the game is gonna be, that's bad. That's bad, because you're literally just trying to sell a store-bought asset as a full game or as hype. That is the problem. Not the fact that someone only even uses store-bought assets. That's also fine. There are plenty of games that are really successful and people really love them and they're actually good, that are literally just 99.9% store-bought assets.
All of the animations and the environments and even entire levels are just stitched together from store-bought assets. That is much more of an issue. So for one, it creates a clear lack of cohesion, with things feeling like they don't quite go together, because they probably don't. If you're pulling tons of different assets from different creators and putting them all into a single game, things aren't going to mesh, and we've seen pretty clear examples of this. It's pretty obviously why the gameplay trailer for Quinfall, you see a lot of stuff that looks super out of place, like the giant sandworm, the scorpion, and the upside down kraken, and especially the various environments. They don't seem cohesive. They don't seem like they're made up of one single art direction, because they're not, because they came from different people who created different packs.
I don't think people even noticed that. I didn't even notice that. If your assumption is that a beta or whatever game like this 3 years in is gonna have all that nailed down, you're gonna think that every single game is a scam. Now, there are other ways to tell that this is a blatant scam right off the bat, or at least create a major level of concerns
that the Quinfall developers purchased and cobbled together. And the other issue with using mostly or entirely store-bought assets to create your game is, what does that mean for future updates? So say if the Quinfall plans to get an expansion or to add new content, what does that mean? They're gonna have to go back to the asset store to purchase that new content, to purchase those new levels and those new characters and those new enemies? And if that's what happens, what if the people who made all of that original content, what if they don't make anything new? They'll have to start buying assets from different people. So again, even further going into the fact that they're going to be adding stuff to the game that doesn't fit together, that isn't cohesive, and doesn't feel like it belongs all in the same world. Now, of course, they could start by using purchased assets and then eventually create and develop their own, but they've not yet proven the ability to do so. If the fact is true that everything we're seeing in this original trailer is from an asset store, as it appears to be, it looks like they've not made much of anything on their own, except for maybe some of the randomly procedural generated environments that we've seen with some of these sweeping vistas. But again, Nuion's various videos have clearly showcased direct one-for-one copy-paste of various asset packs, character models, weapons, clothing, enemies, bosses, environments, entire levels. The evidence is abundant, so feel free to check out those videos if you want a more detailed look at all of that stuff. But the use of store-bought assets, like I said, in and of itself isn't a bigger issue. It does paint a picture of us questioning whether or not the people who are developing this game are capable of creating their own stuff.
And obviously they're not. Hey, I said it at the start, they're Turkish. It is what it is, bro. If you trust the Turkish person to not scam you, that's the same as saying, oh, I'm gonna give money to Greece. Greece doesn't have a problem. You have a problem of being stupid enough to give money to Greece. Greece doesn't have a problem. You have a problem. It's the same with these people. If you're gonna give money to the Turkish and think, yes, they're not gonna scam me, you have not been paying attention to anything. You are stupid, okay? You are just flat out absolutely idiotic. Bro, okay? It is what it is. A little bit more time spent in reality would probably not hurt at this point. Stop being an idiot. There is no way to sugarcoat it, okay? If I ever hear the Turkish are developing something, I'm instantaneously thinking to those videos of African, I don't even know which country has the best mech power armor suit, but man, Africa seems to be in an absolute power struggle with who has the best mech suits. And I'm not kidding here, mech suits. Look at that. A lot of African countries have mech suits where people are going like this and there's tubes going out of their arms. That's also fake, by the way, if you couldn't tell. Yeah, the African government is legitimately trying to sell the idea that to their people that they have Terminators. It's not even one country doing it, it's multiple. It's hilarious. Future robot warriors! And they move with like the It's so good. It's so good, man. Again, most people in the world are fucking idiots. It is what it is. There's no way to sugarcoat it. Again, there were people who were unironically defending the day before, saying, "Oh, this is just an alpha test." There's people defending Starfield and saying it's a good story. There's people defending Blizzard as being not an absolute shit tier company that actually has people who know what's happening, bro. Bro, have you seen some of the things Blizzard has put out? They can't even do math. They have no idea what 1,000 times 1.2 is. They think that's 1,020. Yeah, not 1,200, but 1,020. It's fucking wild shit, boys. And people defend this crap constantly. It is absolutely beyond amazing.
Is cobbling all of this together really going to result in a good game? We don't know as of yet, but I'm not holding my breath on that one. But the store-bought assets are just one part of the puzzle. There have been many more things that have come to light since the last video. First of all, there's this thing here where on the developer's website in the About Us section, they had a photo of their office, which isn't too unusual, except for the fact that it's not actually a photo of their office. It turns out to be a stock image of a generic office that they edited to display their logo. So if they do actually have an office location, it most certainly doesn't look anything like this. Now, according to the developer's LinkedIn page, they do have a physical location, reportedly somewhere in a university in Istanbul. I can't confirm or deny whether or not this is the truth, but that's where they say they are. Now, since all of this came to light, they have removed the office photo from their website and replaced it with just a basic logo of the studio's name. They did this after people started pointing out the fact that, hey, this is an edited stock image and not an actual photo of your office. There's also the fact that digging through the user agreement on Quinfall's website, people identified that the game will be making use of a virtual premium currency called V-Coins, of which the agreement states purchases can only be made through the website.
Oh, nice. I didn't even know about this. Wow. Of course. Obviously. Because why wouldn't a game like this have microtransactions baked in instantly?
And will be non-refundable. It also states that V-Coins
non-refundable
will not accumulate interest. Okay. Now, one image that we've seen of Quinfall did showcase the game's menu, and in that we noticed a store icon that had a giant V on it. Clearly, that is for the V-Coins. That's where you're buying V-Coins.
Virtual bucks, that's what it's gonna be.
Or where you're spending V-Coins or whatever. And speaking of interface, parts of Quinfall's UI appear to display the health, mana, and character level that is a direct one-for-one copy of the UI that's used in Black Desert Online.
Don't worry about it.
Now, beyond that stuff, there...
Also, to be fair, I will say one thing about this. A lot of games have stuff like this. You know what's the only thing that they have similar, honestly? It's the fact that this is a square. That's it. Nothing else is unique here. World of Warcraft has it. Pretty much every MMORPG I have played has had something like this. It is what it is. This is not unique. This is not them actually stealing. The only thing is that it's a square. That's it. Usually it's a round portrait. You know, this doesn't mean anything. of all the things that you could blame them, I'm not even blaming them for something like this, even though they probably 100% tried to steal it, in my opinion, because what are the chances they didn't, right?
That's used in Black Desert Online. Now, beyond that stuff, there's the studio's prior game that was in development called Kyra Online. Now, as mentioned in the last video, Kyra Online began its development in 2019. This was an MMO based on Turkish mythology, and while the game looked low budget and fairly dated, I was actually somewhat...
If anyone's wondering what Turkish mythology even means, it's just a bunch of naked dudes that have a lot of hair on them wrestling in oil. Pretty much the summarization of Turkish mythology and Turkish culture in one sentence. Big boys with a lot of hair wrestling in oil. There you have it.
Impressed. Apparently, they had released Kyra into beta in 2020 after only 1 year of development, and it was said to be made by a team of less than 5 people, originally starting with 1 developer that built up to a team.
But in case if Erdogan you're watching, please do not open the floodgates.
Of 5, and then after a year of development, they released Kyra. And yes, the game looked pretty rough. Yes, it looked dated, but it also seemed functional and playable. And that was actually one of the things that left me feeling a little more hopeful about Quinfall. But boy, oh boy, how wrong I was. What I missed was the fact that while in closed beta, Kyra Online had a massively pay-to-win cash shop, and apparently any purchases that were made during beta, as far as I could tell, were not refunded when the game was eventually shut down in 2021. Kyra's cash shop...
Bro, it's a beta. Of course they're not gonna refund you. Blah, 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 insert lies, blah, blah, blah.
Included all of the usual fare of paid-for resources, currencies, and progression boost. We see percentage modifiers for increasing experience gain, currency and ranks, reducing the cost of respecs and pet experience, reduced auction house tax, and much more. Now, these came in various pack types. The more you paid, the higher your tier, the better the percent boost that you were granted. But what's even worse than that...
Whoa, 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 stop misrepresenting what we see here. You also get more shit. Look at this. There's this many lines, then there's this many lines, and bam, the golden pack. Dude, you would be a fool to not buy this. This is 800% value again.
Is that it looks like they were partnered while in beta with this RMT site called buynogame.com. This is a currency and item reselling site that not only supported Kyra while it was in beta, but also sells items for ongoing games like Lost Ark. In fact, looking further into some of the various people...
Items for Lost Ark? Don't kid me. There's no items in Lost Ark you can sell.
Who are actively streaming Kyra Online while it was...
There's only busing and whatnot you can sell, but that seems kind of pointless, to be honest.
Was in beta. It turns out that many of them were sponsored directly by Buy No Game, so it appears that what I mistakenly early on assumed was genuine interest in the game turned out to just actually be sponsored streams. Buy No Game was sponsoring people to stream Kyra while in beta because of the fact that they had an RMT portion of their site dedicated specifically to that game, so they were just trying to push traffic, basically.
By the way, you know what that means? That their collaboration is literally that site that sells items literally has an infinity amount of items because the admins of the game just generate them for it. Well, the owners of the game just generate all the items that need to be sold. It's pretty crazy. Wow.
To the RMT site, and that is why there were hours and hours of Kyra Online footage online when I originally researched the game. So while some of this information has been around for many months now, a lot of it started to push to the surface in recent weeks, and as a result of this, the developer came out with a response. In fact, just earlier today, they posted this.
Okay. Let us predict what the response will be. Obviously taking no accountability and saying that everyone who says that this is fake is a lying piece of shit. It is what it is.
On Twitter. As we continue to develop the world's largest MMO universe, Quinfall, spanning an impressive 216,000 square kilometers. They're really leaning into this, right? We want to maintain transparency with our users. In our development process, we leverage some ready-made assets to focus more on refining general mechanics and enriching the overall content. Our approach emphasizes that the significance lies not in using ready-made assets, but in creating a versatile structure that can incorporate them seamlessly. And that is absolutely accurate. That there's actually nothing wrong with that portion of the statement. It's true, as I mentioned, using pre-made assets.
True.
Exist to be purchased and to be used. That's why these asset stores are there. But it's what else are you bringing to the game as a studio that actually makes it an enjoyable gameplay experience? And that is where the uncertainty lies with Quinfall specifically. There have been successful games in the past that have used store assets. That was most notably PUBG was a game that was full of store-bought assets, but because the developer crafted a good game, a good gameplay experience, a good gameplay loop around those assets, it turned out to be a good and massively successful title. So it is not an indictment of a game that there are store-bought assets. But when the first gameplay trailer that you release
I had no idea that one of those games was PUBG.
after some sleuthing turns out to be made up mostly, if not entirely, of store-bought assets, that raises the question of whether or not you're capable of creating anything to that level on your own as a studio. And that's just what it is right now. It's a question. We don't know. And so that does not instill me with much confidence. If you're building a lot of the game by yourself, but you're using certain buildings or trees or parts of the like little doodads in the environment, that is totally fine. But if your whole game is just assets stitched together, if that's the case, I can't say until actually playing your game whether or not you as a studio can turn that into a fun experience. And that is one of the things we can't tell in this video. We will have to wait and see until it actually comes out. Although I will forewarn you, you might want to hold off on purchasing Quinfall for a reason we'll touch on in a minute. But let's go back to their official announcement. So they go on to say, additionally, we choose to identify ourselves as Valrek Technology rather than Valrek Studios for a specific reason: our proprietary artificial intelligence technologies. This innovation allows us to streamline the universe creation process, saving a substantial amount of time. I don't dispute this either. I'm not saying that they...
Yeah, this is something I touched on previously. Games already do this. They're not pioneering any of this technology. Games already do this. What do you think? Every piece of brush is put there by hand? No. All games use a certain amount of AI generation and whatnot, and filling in locations and things like that. It's just normal. Well, in any case, I think this is honestly it. It be what it be, boys. Actually, let's look at the post here. Maybe it's something cool.
Already know they intend to sell premium currency while also circumventing...
Nope, it's just premium currency. Anyway, that was our boy Force. What a time to be alive. 10 absolutely out of 10. Would enjoy again. And yeah, Quinfall. Who didn't see that coming, eh? This was Quizzer Said. Thanks for watching. Subscribe if you haven't already. And have a nice day. Bye-bye.